I always thought my marriage was solid. Not perfect, of course, but strong enough to withstand the usual ups and downs. Turns out, I was just another clueless idiot. It started with the late nights. My wife, Jessica, suddenly became a fitness enthusiast. 5 days a week at the gym, long runs on weekends, meal prepping like she was training for a competition. I should have been proud, right? Encouraging. And at first, I was. But something felt off. She never cared about sports before. Hell, she used to mock the idea of waking up early to run. Now she couldn't shut up about it. And then, there was Coach Andrew. This guy wasn't some old-school, clipboard-holding minner. No, he was the cliché, young, fit, charming. The kind of guy you'd see in an energy drink commercial, flashing a perfect smile while doing one-handed push-ups. He was the head trainer at the gym, and apparently, the second coming of fitness Jesus. At least, that's how Jessica talked about him. I should have paid more attention to the signs. The sudden shift in how she dressed. The way she'd leave her phone face down. The late-night showers when she got home, even though she wasn't the type to care that much about post-workout sweat. The little things I ignored because I trusted her. Until the text. It was stupid, really. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while grabbing a towel from the laundry room. It buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. Tonight was amazing. Can't wait for next time winking face. Coach Andrew. I remember just standing there, gripping the edge of the counter, my brain short-circuiting. My first instinct wasn't even anger. It was disbelief. A stupid part of me hoped there was some innocent explanation that maybe he was talking about a workout session. But I knew better. Jessica came back, took one look at my face, and before I could even speak, she snatched the phone. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. I didn't answer. I just walked away. Because if I stayed in that kitchen, I might have done something I'd regret. That was the moment everything changed. And trust me, it only got worse from there. For the next 2 days, I barely spoke to Jessica. I needed time to process, to figure out my next move. She acted normal, too normal, like nothing had happened. But I saw the way she avoided leaving her phone unattended. The way she glanced at me when she thought I wasn't looking. She knew. She knew I had seen the text, and yet she said nothing. That pissed me off more than anything. If she had come clean, if she had tried to explain, maybe, just maybe, I could have handled it differently. But her silence? That was a confession in itself. I needed proof. Cold, undeniable proof. Because if I confronted her now, she'd just gaslight me, twist it around, and somehow make me feel like the crazy one. So I played along. I acted like I hadn't seen a thing. I even made a comment about how committed she was to her new fitness journey. She smiled at me, all sweet and innocent, and it took everything in me not to grab her phone right then and there and smash it against the wall. Instead, I went a different route. I reached out to an old buddy of mine, Greg. He worked in IT security, corporate-level stuff. If anyone could help me figure out what the hell was going on, it was him. "Dude," he said, after I explained the situation, "this is gonna suck, but you need to get into her phone." Easier said than done. Jessica always had it locked with Face ID. But Greg had a workaround. When she's sleeping, hold the phone up to her face. Should unlock instantly. That night, I waited. Pretended to be asleep while she scrolled through her phone next to me in bed. Eventually, she turned off the screen and rolled over. I could hear her breathing slow, feel her body relax. This was it. I reached over, grabbed her phone, and held it up to her face. The lock screen vanished. I exhaled, heart pounding. Messages first. I scrolled through her text with Andrew, and my stomach turned. It wasn't just one message. It was months of them. Late-night chats, inside jokes, compliments. And then the ones that made my blood run cold. "Wish I was waking up next to you. Your body is incredible. I can't stop thinking about last night. You're so much more passionate than him. Do you think he even notices?" I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. She had no idea I was lying right next to her, reading every disgusting word. But it wasn't enough. I needed more. I checked her photos. And there it was. Selfies of her in lingerie. Mirror shots from the gym locker room, sweat glistening on her body. Pictures of them together, one in his car, another at what looked like a hotel. I was shaking. I had to put the phone down before I crushed it in my grip. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to myself, and deleted the evidence. Then I put her phone back exactly where it was and rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wasn't an option anymore. Jessica, the woman I had loved and trusted for years, was nothing more than a liar. A cheater. A manipulative piece of trash. And she had no idea that I knew. Yet. But she'd find out soon enough. Because I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to destroy her. The next morning, Jessica woke up like nothing had happened. She stretched, smiled at me, and kissed my cheek before heading to the shower. I wanted to grab her right then, throw her phone in her face, and ask her how the hell she could do this to me. But I didn't, because I had a plan. I spent the entire day pretending. I kissed her goodbye when she left for work, sent her a casual text in the afternoon, even asked if she wanted to watch a movie that night. She agreed, all smiles, as if she wasn't sneaking around behind my back. That night, as we sat on the couch, she curled up next to me like nothing had changed. I could feel her heartbeat against my arm. I wondered if she could hear mine, the way it pounded in my chest, filled with pure, ice-cold rage. She had no idea. By the time she fell asleep, I had everything ready. The first step? A little social media sabotage. I created a new Instagram account with a burner email and uploaded the most damning photos of her and Andrew. No captions. No names. Just the pictures. Within minutes, I followed her family, her friends, and, most importantly, Andrew's wife. I went to bed that night knowing that when she woke up, her world would start crumbling. And it did. The next morning, I was in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, when I heard a panicked gasp from the bedroom. Then footsteps. Fast. She stormed into the kitchen, eyes wide, holding her phone like it had personally betrayed her. "Ryan, did you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. I sipped my coffee. Took my time. Then, I looked her dead in the eye. "Do what?" She shoved the phone in my face, the Instagram page open. "This. Someone posted these pictures of me." I shrugged. "Looks like you got caught." Her face drained of color. "You," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "You knew." I set my mug down. Stood up. Took a step toward her, watching her flinch like the pathetic coward she was. "Oh, I've known for a while," I said calmly. "I saw the texts. The pictures. Every disgusting little message you sent to Andrew." I leaned in just a little. "So tell me, Jess, was it worth it?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. Her hands trembled as she tried to come up with something, anything, to get out of this. I wasn't interested in hearing it. "I sent everything to Andrew's wife, by the way," I added. Figured she deserved to know what her husband's been up to. Jessica gasped, covering her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. "Ryan, please. Don't." My voice was sharp, cutting through her pathetic act. "You made your choice. Now, you get to live with it." She collapsed onto a chair, face in her hands, sobbing. I didn't feel sorry for her. She wasn't crying because she regretted cheating. She was crying because she got caught. And I was just getting started. Jessica sat there sobbing, her whole body shaking, but I felt nothing. Not pity, not regret. Just a cold, satisfied calm. She wasn't crying because she loved me. She wasn't crying because she felt bad for what she did. She was crying because she got caught. I grabbed my keys off the counter and started heading for the door. "Where are you going?" she choked out between sobs. I turned, looking at the woman I once thought I'd spend my life with. The same woman who had been sneaking around, sleeping with her gym coach like I was some clueless idiot. "Away from you," I said simply. That set her off. She jumped up from the chair and ran toward me, grabbing my arm. "Ryan, please. Let's talk. Let's fix this." I was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I laughed. Actually laughed. "It didn't mean anything?" I repeated, shaking her off. "Then what the hell was all that in the texts? The 'I wish I was waking up next to you'? That you're more passionate than him?" Her face twisted in pain. "Or was that just another lie, like the rest of our marriage?" I added. She reached for me again, but I stepped back. "Please, Ryan. I love you. I swear, Stop." My voice was ice. "You don't love me. You love the fact that I caught you, and now you're panicking because your little fantasy life is crashing down." She sobbed harder, collapsing back into the chair. I should have left right then and there. Should have just walked out the door and never looked back. But I wasn't done yet. "By the way," I said, casually pulling out my phone, "your parents know. Your brother knows. A lot of our friends know. I made sure of it." Her head shot up, her tear-streaked face filled with horror. "You told my family?" she gasped. "Oh, I didn't just tell them," I said with a smirk. "I sent them screenshots. Every disgusting message. Every hotel meetup. Every lie." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "So have fun explaining that at Thanksgiving." She covered her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. "Oh my God," she whispered. "And Andrew?" I continued. "His wife threw him out this morning. I checked in with her just before you woke up. She's divorcing him." Jessica looked like she was about to be sick. I tilted my head, studying her. "You didn't think this through, did you?" She just sat there, shaking. I let the silence drag out, savoring the moment. Then I turned toward the door. "I'll be back later to get my stuff," I said, my hand on the doorknob. "Don't be here when I do." And with that, I walked out, slamming the door behind me. She wanted to play games? Well, I just made damn sure she lost. I drove around for a while, letting the reality of it all sink in. The rage was still there, boiling under the surface, but beneath it was something else. Relief. The weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying for months was finally gone. I wasn't some clueless husband anymore. I had taken control, ripped the truth out of the shadows, and now Jessica had to deal with the consequences of her own betrayal. But I wasn't done yet. I pulled into a parking lot and checked my phone. The messages were already pouring in. Friends, family, even some of Jessica's friends who had no idea what was happening until they saw the screenshots. Her mom had called me 3 times. That one I was looking forward to. I hit call. She answered on the first ring. Ryan, she breathed. Oh my God, honey. I don't even know what to say. I could hear the devastation in her voice, and for a split second, I actually felt bad for her. Not for Jessica, never for Jessica, but for her mother. She had always treated me like a son. She was probably as blindsided as I had been. I'm so sorry, she continued. I don't know what got into her. I swear, I raised her better than this. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, well, she made her choices. Where are you? She asked. Are you okay? I almost laughed at how familiar that question was. I had spent months asking myself that exact thing. Was I okay? Was I just being paranoid? Was I overreacting? Now, I finally had an answer. I will be, I said. She sighed. Please, Ryan. I know you're angry, but just don't do anything rash. I told her to come stay with me for now. She's a wreck. Good. I don't care where she goes, I said bluntly. I just don't want to see her. Her mom hesitated. She says she wants to fix this. That she made a terrible mistake. I clenched my jaw. Then she should have thought about that before she was screwing her trainer in hotel rooms. She sighed again, defeated. I get it, honey. I do. She hesitated, like she wasn't sure if she should say what she was thinking. Then, finally, she whispered, Do you still love her? The question hit me harder than I expected. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I had loved Jessica. Loved her with everything I had. I had built my entire life around her. But now, after everything, I didn't answer. That silence must have told her everything she needed to know. Take care of yourself, Ryan, she said softly. And, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. No matter what happens. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Thanks. We hung up, and I sat there, staring out the windshield, watching the world move around me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed, and I wasn't done yet. Jessica still had more to lose. I smirked, pulled up my messages, and sent a text to Andrew's wife. Hey, you up for a little revenge? Andrew's wife, Melissa, responded almost immediately. Melissa, I've been waiting for this text. That made me smile. She had every reason to be as furious as I was. Her husband had been screwing my wife behind both our backs, and now they were both scrambling to pick up the pieces. But Melissa? She wasn't playing the devastated, heartbroken wife role. She was pissed. Me, let's meet. I have an idea. We agreed on a coffee shop downtown. The kind of place Jessica and Andrew would never be caught dead in. Too boring for them. Perfect for what I had in mind. When I arrived, Melissa was already sitting at a table, stirring a black coffee like it personally offended her. She was beautiful, in that effortlessly cool way. No fake smiles, no pretending she wasn't raging inside. Just pure, controlled fury. She looked up when I sat down and smirked. So, you want to burn them down together, or take turns? I laughed. Why not both? Melissa leaned back, crossing her arms. I've already filed for divorce, she said. Kicked Andrew out the second I saw the pictures. He spent last night begging me to talk, but I blocked his number. Smart. I've got a lawyer drafting papers, I said. Jessica still thinks there's a chance to fix things, but she's about to get served. Melissa raised an eyebrow. She really thinks she can fix this? She's desperate, I said. Not for me. For her reputation. Melissa shook her head. Pathetic. We sat there for a moment, both of us knowing that getting out was the easy part. The real question was how we wanted to go out. Quietly, or with a nuclear blast. I have an idea, I said finally. Jessica and Andrew were so damn proud of themselves, sneaking around, thinking they were untouchable. I say we make sure everyone knows exactly who they are. Melissa's smirk widened. I like the way you think. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. I have copies of all their texts, their photos, everything. She picked up the phone and scrolled, her expression darkening as she read through their disgusting messages. When she got to a particularly graphic one, she let out a disgusted laugh. Oh, this is good, she said. They deserve everything that's coming. Melissa had a few ideas of her own. She had contacts, connections, people who could make sure this didn't just stay a private scandal. By the time we finished our coffee, we had a plan. And by the time we put it into motion, Jessica and Andrew would wish they had never met. Melissa didn't waste time. Within hours, she had already pulled some strings. Andrew was a high school football coach, the kind of guy who loved being seen as a role model. Parents trusted him. Students looked up to him. His reputation was everything. So, imagine what would happen if certain photos and messages anonymously made their way into the school board's inbox. Yeah, that's exactly what we did. The fallout started almost immediately. By noon the next day, Andrew was trending in our local Facebook groups. Someone, definitely not us, had leaked screenshots of his sleazy texts. The messages weren't just flirty. They were explicit. And now, every parent, every student, and every staff member at that school knew exactly what kind of role model he really was. Melissa texted me a screenshot of the school's official statement. Coach Andrew, last name, has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. We take these matters seriously and appreciate the community's patience as we review the situation. I laughed. Administrative leave? He was done. They just weren't saying it yet. Meanwhile, Jessica was unraveling. She called me 14 times in one afternoon. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I let her panic. By the time I finally responded, I knew exactly how this conversation was going to go. Me, what do you want? Jessica, Ryan, please. You have to stop this. Oh, this was good. Me, stop what? Jessica, you know what? Andrew is getting fired. People are calling me a homewrecker. My boss pulled me aside today to ask if I was going through something. This is ruining my life. I stared at her message for a long moment, savoring the irony. Me, funny. That's exactly what you did to our marriage. She didn't reply right away. Maybe she was trying to come up with an excuse. Maybe she was realizing, finally, that there was no way out of this. And then, finally, Jessica, I messed up, okay? But you're taking this too far. Too far. I laughed out loud. Me, you didn't think cheating was too far, but consequences are? That's adorable. No response. I could almost hear her frustration through the silence. Melissa texted me a few minutes later. Melissa, Andrew's officially out. The school let him go. They just haven't made the public announcement yet. That was faster than expected. I had figured they'd drag it out a little longer, but I guess they didn't want the PR nightmare. Me, beautiful. Let's keep it going. Melissa, oh, don't worry. I'm just getting started. Jessica wanted to play games. She was about to find out that she was terrible at them. Jessica completely broke down the next day. I woke up to a flood of texts. Rambling, desperate messages that swung between begging for forgiveness and blaming me for ruining her life. Jessica, Ryan, please, can we just talk? Face to face. Jessica, I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I don't even know why I did it. Jessica, you're turning everyone against me. People are looking at me like I'm trash. My job is on the line. Jessica, why are you doing this to me? Why? I nearly threw my phone across the room. She actually thought I was the problem. Not the cheating. Not the lying. Not the fact that she had been sneaking around for months, screwing Andrew like I was too dumb to notice. No, in Jessica's mind, I was the bad guy because I didn't let her get away with it. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I decided to pay a little visit to Andrew. I already knew where he was staying. His wife had thrown him out, and according to Melissa, he was crashing at his brother's place. The guy lived in a small apartment above a rundown gym, the kind of place where broken-down fighters went to pretend they still had a shot at the big leagues. I parked across the street and waited. Sure enough, Andrew came slinking out an hour later, looking like absolute shit. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes he'd been in for days. He saw me immediately, stopped dead in his tracks. For a second, I thought he might run. Instead, he squared his shoulders and walked over, trying to act like he still had a shred of dignity left. Ryan, he said, his voice tight. You got something to say? I smirked. Nah, man. I just wanted to see how unemployment looks on you. His jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Good. You thought you could screw my wife and just move on with your life? I continued. Thought there'd be no consequences? Andrew exhaled through his nose, eyes darting around like he was checking for an escape route. You got me fired, he muttered. I chuckled. You got yourself fired. I just made sure people knew who you really are. For a second, I thought he might take a swing at me. His fists clenched at his sides, and his whole body tensed. But then, just as quickly, he deflated. I didn't mean for this to happen, he said finally. I swear, man. It was just. Don't. I cut him off, shaking my head. I don't give a shit about your excuses. You screwed my wife. That's the beginning and end of the story. He swallowed hard, looking down at the ground like a scolded child. I let the silence stretch between us before delivering the final blow. Oh, by the way, I added, turning to leave. I sent your wife all the proof she needs to wipe you out in the divorce. I glanced back at him. Have fun starting over. I didn't wait for a response. I just walked away, leaving him standing there, looking like he wanted to throw up. 2 down. 1 to go. Jessica was next. I didn't go home that night. Not because I was afraid of seeing Jessica. I wanted to see her suffer, but because I had nothing left to say to her. She wasn't worth my time. Instead, I crashed at a buddy's place, ignoring her nonstop calls and messages. The more I ignored her, the more desperate she got. By the time morning rolled around, my phone had 23 missed calls and even more texts. I finally opened the last one. Jessica, I'm coming over. We need to talk. I smirked. Oh, this was going to be fun. I drove back to the house, arriving just in time to see Jessica's car already in the driveway. She was pacing by the front door, running her hands through her hair, looking like an absolute mess. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes were puffy. She looked nothing like the confident, smug woman who had snuck around behind my back. When she saw me pull in, she ran toward my car. I barely had the door open before she grabbed my arm. Ryan, please, she gasped, her voice cracking. Please just talk to me. I yanked my arm free. We are talking, I said flatly. So go ahead. Explain to me why you blew up our marriage for some loser trainer who just got fired. She flinched at that. I don't know, she whispered. I wasn't thinking. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? I repeated, laughing coldly. So you risked everything for something that didn't mean anything? She swallowed, stepping closer. I made a mistake. But I love you, Ryan. I love you. Please, I can't lose you. I scoffed. You already did. Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't care. She was only crying because she had nothing left. Andrew was gone. Her reputation was ruined. And now, the husband she thought would always be there, the safety net she expected to catch her, was cutting her loose. You don't love me, I said, voice cold. You love the idea of me. You love the life I built for you. You love the stability. But me? You threw me away the second you spread your legs for another man. She gasped like I had slapped her. Ryan, I will do anything to fix this, she sobbed, reaching for me again. Please. I'll go to therapy. I'll sign anything. I'll let you track my phone, my bank accounts, anything. Just don't leave me. For a moment, I just stared at her. And then I smiled. Fine, I said. If you really mean that, sign the divorce papers. Her face crumbled. Ryan. No, I cut her off. No more talking. No more excuses. No more crying. You want to prove you care? Sign the damn papers. I pulled them out of my jacket and held them up. Her hands trembled as she took them. For a second, I thought she might fight it. But she didn't. She just let out a broken sob and collapsed onto the front step, her body shaking as she signed her name. I took the papers, nodded, and turned toward the door. Where are you going? She choked out. Inside, I said. Without you. And then, for the first time since this nightmare started, I walked into my house alone. And it never felt better. Jessica didn't leave right away. I watched from the window as she sat on the front step, clutching the divorce papers like they could somehow save her. She rocked back and forth, her whole body shaking with sobs. I felt nothing. Eventually, she stood up, wiped her face, and got in her car. I half expected her to storm back inside, beg me one last time, maybe even try to seduce me into reconsidering. But she didn't. She just sat there for a long moment, staring at the steering wheel. Then, slowly, she started the engine and drove away. The moment she was gone, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This was it. The beginning of the end. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and let the silence sink in. No more pretending. No more questioning if I was crazy. No more playing the role of the oblivious husband while she snuck around behind my back. I was free. But I wasn't done yet. Because while Jessica was spiraling, she still had one thing left, her job. And I was about to take that away, too. I grabbed my phone and sent a message to Melissa. Me, how do you feel about one last move? She responded almost instantly. Melissa, you read my mind. Melissa had connections. Jessica worked in marketing, and her company had strict moral clauses, things about maintaining a professional reputation. Wouldn't it be a shame if certain emails exposing her affair just so happened to end up in HR's inbox? I spent the next hour forwarding the worst of Jessica's messages. Not just the dirty ones, those would have been easy to deny as personal matters. No, I focused on the ones that proved she had skipped work to meet up with Andrew. The ones that showed she had used company resources, emails, scheduling software, to plan their little rendezvous. By the time I was done, there was no way her company wouldn't take action. I sent the email anonymously, sat back, and waited. Less than 2 hours later, Jessica called me. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the texts. Jessica, are you serious? You sent those to my job? Jessica, Ryan, I'm about to get fired. Jessica, you're destroying my entire life. I smiled, took a sip of my drink, and sent one final response. Me, you should have thought about that before you destroyed ours. Then, I blocked her number. Let her deal with the consequences. Let her lose everything. And me? I was finally done. The next few days were blissfully quiet. No more Jessica. No more cheating. No more waking up every morning wondering if my wife was lying to my face. The house felt different, lighter, like it had been purged of all the filth she brought into it. I slept better than I had in months. Melissa kept me updated on the fallout. Jessica was officially unemployed. HR had called her in for a meeting, and less than an hour later, she walked out of that building without a job. Apparently, she tried to fight it, claimed it was a personal matter, but the company didn't care. Using work resources to set up cheating rendezvous? Yeah, that was a fireable offense. She was done. Andrew, meanwhile, was crumbling. Melissa sent me a picture of him that she got from a mutual friend. He looked like a wreck, unshaven, wearing the same wrinkled clothes, crashing on his brother's couch. His career was dead, his wife had taken everything, and according to Melissa, he was drowning in debt. Poetic. Jessica, on the other hand, was still trying. She had sent emails, handwritten letters, hell, she even showed up at my gym one morning, looking like a ghost of herself. The makeup was gone, her hair was a mess, and her eyes? Empty. I saw her before she saw me. She was standing by the entrance, nervously shifting on her feet. The moment her eyes met mine, she straightened up and walked toward me like she had rehearsed it. Ryan, she said softly, can we please talk? I sighed. There's nothing left to say. She bit her lip. Please. Just 5 minutes. I should have walked away. Should have ignored her. But a small, petty part of me wanted to see her break one last time. So I nodded. Fine. 5 minutes. We sat on a bench outside. She stared at her hands, fidgeting with her fingers. I deserve everything, she said finally. I know that. But I don't know who I am anymore. I've lost everything, Ryan. I leaned back, arms crossed. That's not my problem. She swallowed hard. I was stupid. I was selfish. I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. She looked up, eyes glassy. And I hate myself for it. I tilted my head. You hate yourself? You think that changes anything? She shook her head quickly. No. She hesitated, taking a deep breath. I just need to know if you ever think we could fix this. I stared at her for a long moment. Then, I chuckled. Jessica, I said, standing up, towering over her. I would rather set myself on fire than ever take you back. Her breath hitched. Tears spilled down her cheeks. And I walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't care. Because this time, she was the one left behind. And it felt damn good. A year later, I barely remembered Jessica. That's the funny thing about healing. It sneaks up on you. One day, you wake up and realize you haven't thought about the person who wrecked your life in weeks. Then months. Then, eventually, they become nothing more than a bad memory. Jessica? She was nothing to me now. I had moved on. Moved out. Sold the house and got a fresh start in a different city. New job. New gym. New people who didn't know me as the guy whose wife screwed her trainer. Melissa and I stayed in touch for a while, mostly to exchange updates on how miserable our exes were. But eventually, we both realized they weren't worth our time anymore. She moved on too, last I heard. She was dating a guy who actually respected her. Andrew? He was working at some no-name gym, barely scraping by. No more coaching. No more admiration. No more reputation. Just another washed-up loser who pissed away everything for a quick thrill. And Jessica? She disappeared. No job. No real friends left. She moved back in with her mom for a while, but even her own family had trouble looking at her the same way. She reached out to me one last time, an email, long and rambling, full of apologies and regrets. I never responded. She wasn't worth it. Instead, I focused on me. I hit the gym harder than ever. Took up boxing. Traveled. Dated casually for a while but never rushed into anything serious. And for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Free. Happy. At peace. One night, I was out at a bar with some friends when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I opened the message. Unknown. Hey, I don't know if you'll even read this, but I just wanted to say I'm truly sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to say it anyway. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a second. Then, I deleted it. Didn't even hesitate. Because the truth was, I was happy. Happier than I had ever been. And Jessica? She was just a ghost now. A cautionary tale. A mistake I had learned from. I ordered another round, laughing at some dumb joke my friend made. The music was loud, the drinks were strong, and for the first time in my life, I didn't give a single damn about the past. I had one, and that was all that mattered.